Now, fanfare for the Queen as the Diamond Jubilee Tour comes to Exeter. Hello, good afternoon. We're live at Exeter University, where the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh are currently having lunch in the Great Hall behind me. They're enjoying the finest of local produce, as you'd expect, and later in the programme we'll have an exclusive preview of how that lunch was put together. As we've just heard, the Queen's arrival here was greeted by a special fanfare, which was written by the music director here at Exeter University and performed by the university's brass ensemble. And amongst other things, the Queen is here to officially open the brand new £48 million Forum building. But it's been a busy day, which started in Somerset and also included a visit to Princess Hay here in Exeter, as David George reports.
Crowds gathered in the main streets of Exeter throughout the morning for a glimpse of the Queen. In the event, she arrived half an hour late, but nobody seemed to mind. The entertainment had a World War II theme. The Queen was retracing her steps from 63 years ago when she came to see the rebuilding of Exeter after the wartime bombing of the city. Princess Hay is named after the then Princess Elizabeth. Amongst the crowds, a group of especially invited guests who were all here for that 1949 visit.
Absolutely fabulous. Such an honour to be presented to the Queen, and it's just amazing. It really is. I still can't believe that it's actually happened.
What did she say to you?
So you were here, and I said, yes, ma'am. And I explained how I climbed onto the roof of the shed in order to get a glimpse of Her Majesty at that time.
You didn't need to climb onto any shed today, did you?
Not today, no. My goodness, yes.
The Queen then went on to Exeter University, where she's opening the multi-million-pound Forum Centre. The second day of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Tour of the South West started earlier this morning in Yeovil. School children were amongst the crowd that gathered outside Pen Mill Station. From there, the royal convoy set off on the short journey to Ninesprings Country Park, the next stop on the tour. Hundreds of people were there to welcome the Queen and Prince Philip as she toured stalls and exhibitions at the park, which is owned by South Somerset District Council. Back outside, a whole row of posy presentations. David George, BBC Spotlight.
Well, as I mentioned, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh are currently having lunch in the Great Hall behind me. Some 250 people from right across the southwest have been invited to join the Queen for lunch today. People from all walks of life who've worked tirelessly for their local communities. There are also representatives from the sports area, the arts of the southwest, farming, and also the armed forces. Now, earlier I was given a chance to have a quick look round the Great Hall. I can tell you all the tables, which are beautifully decorated, are named after local rivers in the southwest. In case you're wondering, the Queen is sitting at the River Exe table. But first thing this morning, I was given an exclusive preview of the royal menu. Well, it's just after 9 o'clock, another 4 hours before the Queen sits down to lunch at Exeter University, but already the kitchens here are a hive of activity. Dessert is well underway, and Richard is in charge of desserts. So what's on the menu for the Queen today?
Well, the brief today was to celebrate the local produce of Devon and Cornwall, and what better way than to put a cream tea on the dessert. But we've deconstructed the cream tea, and we are producing a vanilla panna cotta with a strawberry compote and a strawberry ice cream and a strawberry crumble with a scone topping. So, yeah, it should be good.
I was amazed to see a ruler being used earlier on to precisely measure out some of the ingredients on the plate.
Yes, we're being very precise with what we're doing. We've got a highly skilled set of chefs here, and we will deliver an outstanding meal, I'm sure.
So that's dessert. Aaron, what's on the menu for the main course?
Right, we've got best end of lamb, sweet potato fondant, spring green parcel with a broad bean and pea broth. I'm cooking for the top table, so it should be very exciting.
Pressure's on a bit for you then?
Just a bit, yeah, very much so.
And Rob, tell us about the produce, because there's a great emphasis on local southwest produce in this meal.
Absolutely, yes. We, in the first instance, we had to come up with a set of dishes that we tested and tried, and then we came down to the actual menu we were going to do for today. And when we decided on the menu, then we looked to source as many local produce as we possibly could. We've got Cornish cream, and we've got Devon lamb, and as much as the vegetables as possible are all locally produced. So yes, we've gone as local as we possibly can.
Ahead of a big meal, a big occasion like this, kitchens are normally very tense, but it seems very calm here at the moment. How's everyone feeling?
I think the tension will build the closer we get to 5 to 1 when the main course needs to start going out. So we've got quite a tight time scale, but we're sure that we're going to produce a wonderful meal for Her Majesty.
Looking good so far. We wish you well. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
And those chefs will be presented to the Queen in the Great Hall in about 20 minutes' time, and we'll hear from them on Spotlight tonight. Now, the Queen has made numerous visits to Exeter over the years, as we heard earlier on in the programme. Back in 1949, as the then Princess Elizabeth, thousands turned out to greet her. She came here to inaugurate a key development in the city's history. John Danks has been taking a look through the archives.
Thousands turn out to cheer Princess Elizabeth on the first day of her West Country tour. The Princess's visit marks the start of the city's rebuilding programme.
Princess Hay was named after Princess Elizabeth, as she was then. The new precinct would regenerate an area destroyed by German bombers in the Second World War.
Future generations may see where the rebuilding of Exeter began.
In 1956, and now as monarch, Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh came to Exeter University. It had received its charter only a year previously. Her Majesty was there to unveil the foundation stone of the Queen's building. Smartly dressed students looked on, eager to catch a glimpse of the Queen. But what is it like to actually meet her? Barry Butt works for Guide Dogs for the Blind in Exeter. The Queen visited their former premises at Cleeve House in 1998.
I was very lucky that she actually spoke to me. She came up to me and she asked if my dog was very useful to me and how he helped me. And for me, that was quite an honour. She has this very, very unique way of making people feel very special. And I think you can be in a crowd of people and she makes you feel like you're the only one that she's interested in. And that's a really, really good feeling.
Her Majesty the Queen has just arrived here in front of Exeter Cathedral.
The Golden Jubilee tour of 2002 brought great excitement to the city and a golden opportunity for some.
I just remember the day being quite scary, but at the same time quite exciting, knowing that we're going to perform for the Queen.
Georgina Pavey was just 16 at the time and one of a group of dancers performing for the Queen inside the cathedral.
The Queen is about to enjoy a performance by the Devon Youth Theatre Group.
We had to move the whole entire dance across because of where the Queen was about to sit. We didn't want to end up having to change our dance because obviously the Queen's sat there in front of us. I've always talked about it, so not many people can say they've performed for the Queen.
Well, lots of memories there, and there are more memories of the Queen's visits to the southwest in a special programme on BBC One this Sunday, presented by the BBC's former royal correspondent Jenny Bond, who's with me now. Jenny, we heard there about the Golden Jubilee visit to Exeter back in 2002. You and I were working on that programme back then 10 years ago. How does today's celebration compare, do you think?
You don't look any older at all, Well, from what I've seen of today's celebration, there's enormous enthusiasm for the Queen, and I think that is great, because back in 2002, as you know, there was a lot of tension about whether the Golden Jubilee was going to be a damp squib. Would people turn out? It had been a difficult year. Princess Margaret had died, the Queen Mother had died, we'd had the Diana years. It was, pretty turbulent, but in the end, it started down here, and by the end of that first day, we all felt people had turned out in their thousands. It was going to be all right. And now it's just obviously all right.
Remarkable scenes here today. They're talking about something like 10,000 people on this campus, and a glorious day as well.
That's brilliant, and it's particularly lovely, I think, to talk to some of the young people and find out whether they really are enthusiastic about the monarchy. Because I've always thought that's the biggest danger for the monarchy, actually apathy of the young. But they love her. They just were dying to see her, and they obviously think the monarchy is cool now.
And you've been hearing lots of memories of those visits over the last 60 years to the southwest.
Yes, making this lovely film, The Queen and I, and we've been all all over the place, from the Scilly Isles right up to Somerset, all through the West Country, revisiting people who've met her over the years. And I'll tell you, the day you meet the Queen is a day you never forget. So they've all got wonderful stories to tell.
We'll look forward to the programme. Jenny, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And you can see that programme, the Queen's visits to the southwest over the last 60 years, on BBC One this Sunday at 4:15. As I mentioned, it's been a glorious day here in Exeter. Let's get the forecast now from Emily. Thank you very much indeed, Emily. Well, as the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh finish their lamb, followed by deconstructed Devon cream tea, they'll leave here in a few minutes' time. We'll be back here tonight with full coverage of the day's events and meeting some of the people who've been presented to the royal couple today. In the meantime, coverage continues now on BBC Radio Devon, and we'll be back here at 6:30. From all of us in Exeter, good afternoon. At Exeter University, where the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh are currently having lunch in the Great Hall behind me. They're enjoying the finest of local produce, as you'd expect, and later in the programme we'll have an exclusive preview of how that lunch was put together. A fanfare for the Queen as the Diamond Jubilee Tour comes to Exeter. Hello, good afternoon. We're live at £48 million Forum building. But it's been a busy day, which started in Somerset and also included a visit to Princess Hay here in Exeter, as David George reports.
Crowds gathered in the main streets of Exeter throughout the morning for a glimpse of the Queen. In the event, she arrived half an hour late, but nobody seemed to mind.
As we've just heard, the Queen's arrival here was greeted by a special fanfare, which was written by the music director here at Exeter University and performed by the university's brass ensemble. And amongst other things, the Queen is here to officially open the brand new